Welcome back to Thimbleberry U. I am John Jag Gay. I'm joined by Amy Walls from Thimbleberry Financial. Amy, great to be back with you.
Jag, it's good to be talking to you.
And today we're going to talk about something that I know you are passionate about. It is something I know you get excited about, and that is having the steps in the hierarchy of goals in a solid financial plan. It's like a house. You got to build the foundation first, then you build the first floor, the second floor. And I know a lot of folks that you work with, the natural temptation is to jump in halfway through, but you really got to start with the basics, right?
Absolutely. And I do get excited about this because in a well-rounded comprehensive plan, you have to make sure everything's in order. I think the other reason that I get excited is just a personal thing, is that I am a very process-oriented person. And so there is a process to this. And if you use the process, it works really well.
There was a basketball team a couple of years ago that was rebuilding, and they kept using the cliche, trust the process, trust the process. So I think in this case, we need to trust the process.
Absolutely.
So when someone comes to you and we start from scratch and we start with a financial plan, what is number one on that list, Amy? Where do we start?
First of all, you use the house foundation. I'm going to refer to this as something like Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Okay,
in a pyramid. So maybe it's a pyramid house, but you got to start with the foundation.
Right, and we'll walk like an Egyptian and start at the beginning of the pyramid.
Perfect. So there's a few things that fall into the foundation of any solid financial plan. There's cash reserves, there's debt, and there's protection planning. Mm-hmm. So cash reserves, I think we've talked about previously. Generally, that's 3 to 6 months of someone's expenses. I don't love rules of thumb, but you want to make sure you have enough cash for emergencies and opportunities.
Just in case, and we've seen with COVID, people losing jobs and getting sick and all kinds of things.
Yep. And the thing that surprises me with cash reserves is so often I hear folks that I'm talking to for the first time say, well, if we lost our jobs, we'd cut out all these expenses. So we do have 3 to 6 months, but it's without all of these things.
It's 3 to 6 months eating peanut butter sandwiches and ramen noodles.
Exactly. And that's not what we want. We want 3 to 6 months of what you are spending in real life, even pre-COVID versus COVID if your expenses have dropped.
And that's where it's so important to sort of do an inventory and track everything that you spend for a month. And this is, now I don't use cash that much anymore, so it's so easy to do. I go to my credit card statement or my bank statement and I download the file from the website and I look at everything I spent for the month, because you might forget about that $5 coffee. You might forget about that $15 lunch when you're on the run between running errands. You might forget about all those things, but you really want to have an accurate number of what you're actually spending every single month.
Absolutely. And Jag, the other piece, I love that you do that, first of all, each month. You are very disciplined, so good job.
Credit my wife. She made me do it.
I've got to meet her one of these days. The other thing, though, is to look at those unexpected expenses, right? Because we're talking the monthly expenses, but we do have things that are necessary in our lives that come up regularly. Maybe it's every 3 months.
Yep. Stuff that's due every 3 months, budget that out. Car repairs come up. Other, medical expenses, things come up that aren't expected.
Yes, absolutely. So that's one part of the foundation. I've said debt was the second part. And this doesn't mean getting rid of all your debt before you do anything else. What it means is having your debt under control.
What do you mean by that?
Having a plan to reduce it if it's high, knowing what your strategy is, and it's either choosing that needs to be tackled before you build the pyramid further, or that you can be handling that at the same time as you start to maybe build the walls.
I think having that plan is so important, and I'm really glad you said that, because I think it's a common misconception that a lot of people say, oh, I've got all this debt, I can't start saving till I get rid of all this debt. And if you say that, something's always going to come up to add to that debt. You'll never save because stuff pops up. So you really want to make sure you figure out how to keep the debt in control as opposed to eliminating it altogether. I think that's really worth repeating there.
Absolutely. And some people say, well, I'll build a cash reserve when my debt is gone.
No.
But guess what? You can't get out of debt without a cash reserve. There's Murphy's Law, right? Things are going to come at us in 3s or 5s, or in 2020 and 2021, 10s and 15s. And so that cash reserve really keeps you from building more debt when something unexpected does happen.
Agreed.
And so the last thing in the foundation is protection planning. And here I'm really going to focus on life and disability insurance. And this doesn't apply to everybody, but if you've got people at home depending on you and your income and what you bring to the table, and it's not even necessarily your income, if you are the caregiver at home, you have a life insurance need. And so knowing what that is and making sure you have taken care of that. We've talked about disability insurance before. This is really protecting your income. And what I like to say is that if it were legal, I want to make sure that's out there, to have a money machine that pumps out currency in your basement, right? Legally, you would want to insure and protect that machine.
And you are that money machine because you're bringing the money in.
Absolutely. And especially in the work we do in tech and healthcare, where so many of our clients are, they are very specialized in the work they do.
Yes.
And so protecting the ability to do that work and to get paid for that work is really important.
I'm so glad you mentioned about sort of the stay-at-home parent as well, whether if you have a single-parent household and just the mom or just the dad works, the parent that's staying at home needs to be insured as well, because without that parent, or if that parent was disabled and unable to take care of the kids, there is a huge cost to child care. So even if they're not making a salary to be a stay-at-home parent, there is a significant amount of money that's tied to that as well.
Yes. When I became an advisor about 18 years ago, I saw a statistic. And if you at that time had to hire out all of the things that a stay-at-home parent does, it would cost approximately $60,000 a year. Here's the thing. About every year and a half, 2 years, I try to find a new statistic on that. I have not found one.
I would imagine it's at least double it by now.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So you think about childcare. I know what a nanny costs having a 4-year-old. Multiple kids adds to that. You're talking house cleaning. You're talking cooking. There's a lot that goes into that. And so you're right. If someone's a stay-at-home parent, there's definitely an insurable need on them, and it's bigger than a lot of people think.
Absolutely. So we'll go back to the house analogy here for a moment. So the foundation is your cash reserves, your debt, and protection with life and disability insurance. That's the foundation. What about the walls? How do we build the walls to our metaphorical house, Amy?
Yes, our metaphorical pyramid house. So there's going to be a couple floors in this house, and it all depends on what someone's goals are. Mm-hmm. So there's medium-term goals. Oftentimes, these are things like college or a vacation home. Then there's longer-term goals. That's often retirement or financial independence, and all that's envisioned with that, right? Because it's not just, I'm not working. It's maybe another house at that point that isn't a medium-term goal, or extra travel, those kinds of things. And as we start to build these floors, there might be some back and forth. So for example, most often what we see is if someone has children, their kids' college goals will come before their retirement in terms of the timeline. I won't say that from a planning perspective, I would suggest planning for them in that order. But in terms of the timeline, that's what happens. However, we periodically see that someone's actually going to retire at the same time that their kids are going off to college, or maybe before. And it's not just that retirement is this point in time, right? Because it's going to last the rest of their life. So there has to be some give and take between these goals to say, what do we plan for first? Because it's a priority. And if we're on track for that, let's say that is retirement, then maybe we back up a little bit to say, okay, now what are these medium-term goals that weren't as important, right? Because they aren't, and we can see that this can work. So those are going to be now the second floor of our pyramid house thing.
The foundation is static, but the walls are a little bit interchangeable. I feel like we're remodeling a house on an HGTV show at this point.
Perfect. You've got the analogies today.
I don't know. I'm just full of them today. Or full of something anyway. So you mentioned, Amy, I want to come back to this. The difference between financial independence and retirement, they are not the same thing.
They aren't. The way that I define it is that retirement is the day you wake up and you don't go to work. Like, you're done. You're going to be home. Doesn't necessarily mean you're sitting in the rocking chair on the front porch. That's not it. It's not our grandparents' retirement. It's that you have no intention of working
Yes.
for an income. Financial independence is more of a mindset.
Okay.
It's that you don't have to get up and earn an income, that you're looking at this as the world is open to you in terms of what you might want to do. And that might mean that you do want to earn an income, but it might mean that, hey, you go, hike across a desert. That doesn't sound very fun to me, but some people would enjoy it. So I'm really saying you can do whatever you want at that point. And it's a day-to-day choice on, do you get up and earn an income or keep that on your list as something you're going to want to do?
I'm glad you clarified that because I think that's an important point. So we've covered the foundation, we covered the walls, top floor of the house or tippy top of the pyramid, depending on which analogy you want to use. What is at the top?
Well, there's two more items that we actually have to add. One of them is in our pyramid, and it's estate planning.
Okay.
This is making sure your beneficiaries on all your accounts are correct. It's making sure you have a will, if it's appropriate, having a trust, your healthcare directive, your power of attorney, all of these legal documents that mean you've built this pyramid correctly. Now, as you're no longer here or you're getting close to that point in time, that it can all be protected and it can all pass to other people in the way that you want it to.
Really, estate planning is not so much about you, but it's about the people that you love that you're going to leave behind and want to make sure that they're in the best position they can possibly be in.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, right? As we talk about this, we've talked about that at the foundation and we've talked about it at the top of the pyramid. Financial planning isn't just about the person that's planning. It's about everybody. So that's what's in the pyramid, all of those things that we've talked about. But over the top of the pyramid is a great big cloud.
Okay.
And that cloud is full of taxes.
Ah, okay.
Because guess what? When it rains on this pyramid, those taxes are going to hit every area that we just talked about. So
this visual just got really real.
Yep, that house is getting wet and some of it's disappearing to go to the government. And so we've got to make sure as we're building that house, we're keeping in mind what the impact of that cloud and that rainstorm could be.
And Amy, I know that with some of the clients and some of the areas that you specialize in at Thimbleberry Financial, there are some interesting considerations for clients who come in and are dealing with all this, right?
There are. We tend to work in tech and healthcare. So those are industries where incomes tend to be high. And in tech, we've also got equity compensation, which is often stock provided by an employer to the employee. So with that, what we'll often see is that someone started receiving lots of income or this stock. And so the stock has started to build. And so they've got this bucket of money sitting in the middle of this house on the second or the third floor, either for retirement or for other goals, right? It's just sitting there.
Yeah.
But they don't have anything below or anything above.
Ah.
It's just there somehow. We've used enough analogies. I don't need to say it's floating in the middle of our house, but it's just sitting, sitting there. And that's dangerous. The other way that we see it is people have good incomes and they start maximum funding their 401ks, which is a great, wonderful thing to do. Absolutely wonderful thing to do. And again, they've done that because it's easy. It's right there in front of them, but there's no foundation. And should they lose their jobs, and we saw this, over the last little bit with COVID, then they have nothing to turn to. They're going to have to raid their 401k and again, get hit by this cloud of taxes that was raining down.
It really is so important to start with the foundation. Wherever you start, you want to make sure that even if you have to go downstairs and build that foundation, let's make sure we do that to bring that analogy one last time. And Amy, if somebody wants to come talk to you at Thimbleberry Financial about building their house or building their pyramid or building their igloo or whatever structure you want to live in, what are the best ways to find you?
They can find us on our website at thimbleberryfinancial.com or give us a call at 503-610-6510.
Always a pleasure, Amy. Take care and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Registered representative. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisor representative. Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc. a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Thimbleberry Financial are not affiliated.